Hi everybody, we are officially starting our Back to Basics garden season with me, the Heartland Gardener. If you do not know who I am Marissa. I am a Zone 7A gardener and I've been gardening for about 15 years, and the goal of these videos are going to be to teach you, a brand new gardener, how to start a garden from scratch so you can have some success in the year of 2026. We're going to start from a plot of dirt all the way to getting that into a successful garden space, planting your plants, and then all of the maintenance that starts in between. That is the plan, but you have to start somewhere. So for this video, we're going to talk about your why. Now this goal is going to look a little different for every single person. Maybe you just bought a new house and you want to add a little bit of curb appeal. Maybe you want a cottage feel kind of garden that comes back every single year. Or maybe you're a new homesteader. You want to learn how to grow your own food and can it. So the why is very important because you're going to need drastically different things to set up each one of those types of gardens. Now, as I'm filming this is actually late October and it seems like a crazy time to think about starting a garden, but this is actually the best time because we're not going to be putting a whole lot of plants into the ground and you have plenty of time to plan out your space, plan out your goals, and kind of get a game plan in place so that you can start your gardens in March or April of next year. So I want you to make a list of all of the things that you plan on growing. If you have never grown anything before, I suggest that you scale yourself back from whatever your original plan is, because once you get a large garden in place, it is a lot of work. You also need to remember, if you've never done this before, that you are probably not going to be fabulous at it your first time, which is completely fine. You don't go to the gym and expect to have an amazing body after one time. You are not a chef because you learn how to cook rice. You know, anything that you've done, you've gotten better at it over time. I have been gardening for 15 years and I still make mistakes, but I can tell you if I go in my garden and a hornworm has eaten my tomatoes or if it has blight. I can tell you if my squash has squash vine borers or if it's squash bugs. I can tell you if my roses have a mildew disease or a fungus. I know that because I've done this for so long that I can look at those things, but you're not going to know. You're going to go out there and think, oh my God, what has happened to my plant and what did I do wrong? I always use the example, squash vine borers are the bane of my existence, and we will learn about those together. But I used to think that I was doing something wrong with my squash plants because I would go out there, they would be beautiful, and the next day I would go out there and they would be completely dead and the roots would be eaten out. And I thought that I was overwatering them. And so then I would pull back all of the water and then they would get dehydrated and die. So those are things that I've learned along the way, and that's the point of this series, is we're going to go through those things individually, but you can't do any of that until you have your space planned out. So again, your homework is going to be, what is my why and what do I want to grow? So you can list out, I want to have 4 beds and I need to have some sort of trellising system. I want to grow tomatoes, cucumbers, and squash this year. That's a great goal. If you just want some curb appeal, you can say, I really like these colors. Maybe you want purple, pink, and yellow. I want some height in the back and I want to have some perennials in the front. Those are the things you need to think about now, because when you start to go to the garden center, you're going to get overwhelmed. There's all these beautiful plants. You're going to grab things and it's going to kind of set you off of your original goal. So having those things, your bullet points of things that are really important to you, is the most important thing to me as your very, very first step of starting a garden. Now, maybe this doesn't apply to you. Maybe you already have a space that you've started and you don't like the way that it's laid out, or maybe the lighting requirement is not what you wanted. That's another reason for you to pull back and say, here's a space that I have. What can I do with that space? I have an almost full shade front yard. I'm not a big fan of it, but I have plants there that come back every single year, like hostas, and they're beautiful, and I don't really have to do anything out here, which is great because I have my entire backyard to do. So I'm going to take you on a little tour of my garden and show you some of the reasons I chose the spaces that I did, and hopefully that will give you some ideas of things that you can think of for your own space. Now, before we get into all the garden stuff, if you're going to be watching my videos, I'm going to introduce you to the garden helpers so you know who they are if they make an appearance in my videos. This is Jax. He is my shadow. He's a Great Dane and he loves his mama, so he is in a lot of these videos with me. He's a very good helper. He likes to really dig in the garden. He helps me eat birdseed and he helps to mulch my plants even when I don't want him to. So he will be in a lot of the videos. This is Fiona, aka the mouth. Okay. She's more of a supervisor. She likes to tell us what we're doing wrong. She likes to push me around and Jax and just be kind of an overall pain in the butt, huh? She is definitely the matriarch of the family and she helps take care of all of us in the garden. When I moved into this space, there was no garden space at all, so I have done my garden in 3 different phases. Now, it's October right now, so most of my plants are gone. This is not what my garden looks like in the summertime. Here are some pictures of what it does look like in the summertime. The point here is to show you the spaces and give you some ideas of what you can use in your own area. This was my original garden space. I made myself a bed here. I have 2 beds right here. I have my arches so I can grow vertically on these, which are very, very important to have that space. I have 2 more beds on this side. I have a ton of my potted plants right there. And then I have this in-ground garden. Again, it is October. This looks like a hot mess, but I just want you to have some ideas in your head. I have some straw right here because I was putting mulch on all of my plants because we got a little bit of a freeze last night. I also have my bed here. I have a long 6-foot bed here, another bed over here, one here, and then I have a free space right here that I can do any in-ground plants I want to do. Right now, I'm using these beds to grow my cool crops. So I have bok choy in there, dill, I have some lettuce. Now these beds do not get a lot of sun because of the tree that is above them, but lettuce doesn't need a whole lot of sun. So I use these 2 beds a lot in the spring and in the fall. I originally used this space for tomatoes because it gets a whole lot of sun. However, I took over that part of the yard right there with those T-posts. So now I've got roses in here, lavender, rosemary, and I use it more as my pollinator garden. Now this next space is one of my favorite spaces. I planned this out because I grow a lot of indeterminate tomatoes. Indeterminate tomatoes are vines. So I needed big places for them to grow because a tomato cage does not hold those. So me and my son came in, we put the T-posts into the ground, I made rows, and we brought in tons of mulch and landscape fabric to make a new garden space. Again, I know this is so hard to envision because it is October, but that's when I'm starting the series. So this was full of Roma tomatoes, and this entire thing was cucumbers this summer. I have now turned this into a pollinator bed, so every single flower in this bed is going to come back every year for me, and it will be a very low maintenance bed and help to bring in the bees, the butterflies, anything that is beneficial to help in the garden. Now these rows are made up of 8-foot T-posts, so when I have my tomatoes into the ground, I will put a string, I pull it all the way up here, and it supports the vines of those, so I have 4 of those rows that we have put in. I say we, but I really mean me. Things that are very important in this space. This is a full sun space. Most of the things that you're going to want to grow if you're producing food need full sun. Some things that I thought about in these spaces were the spacing between these rows. You can see that the marigolds are growing through here. When I have these full of tomatoes, you can barely get through them. But this is about a 3.5-foot walkway. So if I want to pull a bag of dirt through there, or if I need to get the wheelbarrow, if my husband needs to get the mower through here, I need to have some space. So that was what went into my thought process doing this. This is very sturdy. T-posts are pretty inexpensive and they will last you forever and ever, amen. I also added in these 3 6-foot beds as well. So I chose this spot because these beds get full sun all day long, which is wonderful. That's what you want when you're growing your fruits and your vegetables and most of your flowers. And this was a lot of work. I put these all together by hand. I went to the bulk store and got my truck filled up with dirt and with the mulch that you see all over the place, hand shoveled it out and brought it down here. You don't have to spend a ton of money, but it is a lot more work if you don't go to one of the big box stores to get the bags delivered to you. Now, I definitely plan on talking to you a whole lot more about how you're going to plan out these spaces and how you're going to build your garden spaces. I just want you to have some ideas in mind of things that you could do. If you are still with me, here is what I plan on doing next year to this space. Jax is pretending to be a garden bed. So we live on basically a small mountain. So this is slightly sloped down. My plan is that I'm going to turn this space into a garden. I haven't exactly decided what I want to do yet, but it's going to have some raised beds in there, maybe some in-ground spaces, definitely a lot of cattle panel arches. I want to maximize the space because it gets full sun and I really want to utilize that. Now, I know that was a lot of information and it's probably more overwhelming than it is anything else. So let's sit back down and talk about a couple of things that you can do to get yourself ready to start a small space, not as big of a space as I have. So let's break down what you can start doing now so that you have a better plan when we actually start talking about how to build your garden. I want you to write down your why. What do you want to grow? Why do you want to grow it? And what space do you have available to do that in? I'm going to do a series talking about apartments, small scale gardening as well. So this does not mean you have to have a huge piece of land to do this. You just need to know what your goals are, and then we can amend those to the space that you have. Since you're already doing some homework, here's a couple other things that you can consider. What is the light requirement in the space that you want to use? Most of your producing things want at least 6 hours, preferably 8 or more. So if you do not have a space that has that, you need to reevaluate what you're going to do with that space or find another place to put your garden in. Your second thing is your water source. You have got to have a way to easily get water to that garden or you are not going to be successful. Now, I love the way that raised beds look. I like a cohesive feel in the garden, so that's why I chose those, but you do not have to use that. An in-ground garden is absolutely fine. Those are the really important things that you need to think of. You do do not want to go to the store in April and buy a bunch of plants, come home, you don't know what to do with them, you don't have the proper spaces, because it's going to set you up for failure. So that concludes our first lesson in the garden. Thank you for sticking with me. I'm sure there are some times this was tedious and I'm rambling on. I've never made YouTube videos before, so I am still learning. But I promise you I can teach you how to get a garden in place. If you have specific questions about something, please leave them in the comments. If there's something you want me to make sure that I'm going over in my lessons, I will be happy to add that in if it's something that I am aware of or that I can teach you a little bit better. And I will see you in our next lesson.